Which e-bike do you buy in 2021? Most definitely the most asked question on the channel, so let's get into it. Riders, welcome back to Sam's Bikes, where you know we only talk e-bikes. The e-mountain bike market has exploded in 2021, and in this episode, I'm gonna help you find which bike is perfect for you. But before we get into it, I wanna give a shout out to the HKT Podcast. Davey, if you're watching out there, mate, you are a champion. And anyone that hasn't heard of the HKT Podcast, you got to go over, check it out. This is definitely not any advertising for the HKT Podcast. It's more total respect for Davey and what he's doing. And I reached out to him a couple of weeks ago with a few questions, sort of industry related. And the guy got back to me in like 5 minutes. He's an absolute star. And also, he has released the Defiance Winter Handbook, which is going to help people, I think, in winter. I think it could be a tough winter to get through it. It's basically a bit of fun as activities for bike riding, for health, for podcasts to listen to, books to read. I would definitely download it and check it out. And Sam's Bikes gets 10,000 subscribers, and we are having a party, a live party on the 15th of November at 6 p.m. Madrid time. So make sure you bookmark that date. We're gonna be giving away Sam's Bikes t-shirts, Ride Concept shoes, some Eddy Currents, a goodie bag from Commensal, and a year membership with Dialed Health. And riders, if you can't wait a month for the t-shirt, you can all buy a t-shirt online. The link will be in the description, and it really helps the channel grow. Okay, now on to buying an e-bike in 2021. It is a minefield, and I hope this video helps. Okay, we're gonna start off with budget. You can get a bike for around 3,000 or 4,000 euros at the moment, pretty decent. And most of the bike companies have 3 models: the base model, the middle spec, and the top spec. And if I'm 100% honest, the base spec e-bike is probably gonna get the job done for like 70% of the people out there. If you're new to mountain biking, then probably the base spec is gonna do the job for you. The main difference between the base and the top spec is obviously price, weight, and adjustability of your suspension. Carbon or aluminium? I get this question all the time. Look, a lot of the downhill pros right now are still riding aluminium bikes. So I would say if they're good enough for the pros, they're good enough for us. I personally would take a higher spec aluminium bike over a lower spec carbon bike. Buying online or traditional bike shop? I've already done a video of this, click on the link above. But to break it down very quickly, I think the online and traditional bike shops prices are coming closer. But if you like the idea of testing these bikes, talking to a salesman in the bike shop, having local support, and also supporting your local community, then go for a bike shop. But if you're the type of person that wants to go for the top spec and get the better forks for the better price, then obviously online is going to be better for you. One thing when you're buying online, you are getting a better price, and you're going to have to build your own bike. But if something does go wrong, you need to be prepared to box it up and deal with the customer service. And granted, it probably will take a little bit longer than the bike shop, and you have to be patient. You got to take the good with the bad. Look, I see it so many times on Facebook, people bagging an online company for their slow customer service. It's kind of what, you know, you're not getting a free lunch. Like, if something does go wrong, it will take longer. Full fat or half fat? If you've been watching the channel, you know my new ride is a Specialized Levo SL, an 18 kilo beast of a bike, and I'm really loving it. But it's not for everyone. I think if someone's thinking of buying a half fat e-bike, they really need to go and test one to understand it. It's a super interesting bike, and I'm loving my Levo SL, but I kind of see it for someone that is a fitter rider, that maybe likes to ride in a group of e-bike riders that he or she might be the stronger rider out of the group, that likes to pedal, that likes that natural feeling of a normal enduro or trail bike. For me, it's the best feeling e-mountain bike I've ridden for going down. but you definitely need to be fitter. And also for someone that's super busy with their family and business life, that maybe can't get out for as many rides with their friends as they would like on normal enduro or trail bikes. And so they go out for their Sunday ride with their friends on acoustic bikes, but they can't quite keep up and they're not ready to go onto a full fat. I kind of see it perfect for that type of person. So definitely not for everyone, but if you think that sounds like you, go and test one. I really think you enjoy it. Okay, now to the different styles of e-bikes. We got hardtails, we got trail bikes, we got enduros, and we got downhill bikes. So which style is better for you? Hardtails, if you're happy to ride trails which don't have much rocks or drops, you could be very happy on a hardtail. I find the e-bike hardtail a bit more uncomfortable than an acoustic hardtail because of the weight. It's just overemphasized, but saying that, I had loads of fun on the Max Power I tested a few months back. An e-trail bike is typically 130 to 150 mils of suspension. And if you like the idea of having some support, but you don't want to go crazy on trails, then it's probably a great option. Enduro e-bike typically comes with 160 to 170 mils of travel, and it's more for someone looking to get pretty rowdy and maybe spend a little bit of time at bike parks. And it's definitely, in my opinion, probably the most popular e-bike on the market. And downhill or super enduro e-bikes are generally 170 to 200 mils of full suspension. And pretty much they're for someone that lives in a very rowdy place like the Alps or the Pyrenees or Whistler that wants to ride straight up and ride straight down. Riders, it's super easy to go into that bike shop and see that big downhill monster truck and say, I want that bike. But typically for 90% of the riding we all do, you're gonna be overbiked and you're gonna be happier on probably a trail or an enduro bike. So think about what you actually need. Motors, we have Bros, Bosch, Shimano new EP8 and the old workhorse E8000, Yamaha, and the half-powered Specialized 1.1. Yes, there are a few other motors on the market, but riders, I have tested all the ones I just mentioned, and they're all pretty good. There are small differences. I personally wouldn't be looking at just a motor and then picking the bike. I'd be looking at the whole package. If you are looking at racing like an EWS, like I am crazily doing next year, you're probably gonna be looking for either a Bros or a Bosch because they are the most powerful on the market at the moment. A thing that we don't think about that much when we're looking at buying an e-bike, everyone looks at the power and says, okay, it's got 90 Newton meters, that's the one I want. But realistically, on a 2-3 hour ride, you cannot use that power that much because you'll drain that battery. So for me, it's not the most important thing when it comes to buying an e-bike. And battery, okay, this is a really hard one to explain. Everyone asks, what's the range of that bike? It's impossible to say the range. It depends on where you're riding, who's riding it, how much the rider's actually putting input, how steep it is, how cold it is, loads of different things. But typically with a 500 watt battery, you're getting between 2 and 3 hours of pretty aggressive mountain bike riding. And with the Levo SL, the 320 watt battery, I'm actually getting around the same, it seems like. I'll need to do more testing. So if you're someone that's looking at doing more than 3 hours of mountain bike riding, you're probably gonna be wanting to look for a 630, 700 watt battery around there. Or also, if you're someone that's not that fit and getting back into shape, maybe look for that bigger battery because you're gonna be able to spend more time in the higher assistant modes. Wheel size, 27, mullet, 29er. Which is better and why? In the last 18 months, I've ridden all setups, and I have to tell you, I love all of them. They all have their pros and cons. But if we start with 27, the 27 is for a rider that wants to play more on a bike. It's gonna have a shorter wheelbase, probably a shorter chainstay, and also my friend Nick, who's riding my old decoy at the moment, he actually told me he's ridden the 29 and 27. He feels more comfortable on a 27 because he's lower to the ground. So maybe for someone that's starting out at 27 would be better as well. A mullet, you're kind of getting a bit of best of both worlds. With the 29 up front, you're actually getting more rollover, more tractions coming into that corner, and you're gonna be able to exit faster because you've got a smaller wheel. And with the 29 and the wagon wheels, anyone that watched the channel will know I'm a big fan of the 27s. But actually the last 6 months, I've been on the 29er Decoy and now the Levo SL. And riders, I could be a convert. It's amazing, so fast and so much traction. I'm not gonna say it's better than a 27 or a mullet, just different. And one thing I would say, if you're a shorter rider, maybe like 5'7", 5'8", I'd be looking at a 27 or a mullet. I just think the bikes are easier to move around for those smaller riders. Now sizing, one of the most important parts of an e-bike. You've got to get it right. If you can, get into your local bike shop and get fitted up properly. Pretty much every company now online will have a sizing chart. And look, check out that sizing chart because the sizing on the bikes are actually quite different these days. And if you're right exactly in between that size, a rule of thumb for me would be if you go up in size, so you size up, the bike is going to be longer and it's going to make the bike feel more planted and more stable at high speeds in a straight line. And I would recommend if you're between sizes and you haven't got a lot of experience to size up, but if you're more an experienced rider and you know you like a shorter bike, maybe size down a little bit because that bike's gonna be more playful in and out of the corners. I actually sized down this time on the Levo SL. I went for a large and went on the Decoy, I've been riding an extra large. I can ride both bikes. I can ride a large, I can ride an extra large. I'm pretty much right in between sizes. And I'm finding the Levo SL with a very short chainstay of 437 and a short reach, so a short wheelbase, I'm finding the bike super playful. And yes, maybe the extra large would be a little bit more planted going straight down, but I'm finding it amazing. And another thing, if you do size up and you find that bike just a little bit too big, most of the bikes these days come with a 40 or a 50 mil stem. So you can just put a 30 mil on that and just bring that reach back a little bit. So you can adjust that after you've bought the bike. And riders, that is it. I really hope this helped you sort of navigate the way of buying an e-bike in 2020. If you have any questions, please hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. I reply to everyone. It is a minefield out there. Hit me up, ask me anything, no problem. And riders, don't forget to download the Winter Defiance Handbook and stay safe out there and put the 15th of November in your diary. We're giving away loads of free stuff. Sam's Bikes is 10,000 subs. And stay safe out there, and I will see you next week.